We begin today the Gemara on Daf Nun Amud Aleph, about 10 lines from the top of the Yamud, where it says Al Kazayis Meis Al Kazayis Notzel. Said in the Mishnah, the different parts of a body that cause tumah, that a Nazir that becomes tamei will have to then bring karbanis and cut his hair for this. So the Mishnah said if it's a kazayis of a body or a kazayis of notzel, which is a certain kind of fluid. Not all fluids that come from a dead body will cause tumah, but notzel, that will. What exactly is this notzel? So let's see. Veizehu notzel. So it says in the Braisa, what is this notzel? So it says, B'sara meis shakorash. It's the flesh of a body that was congealed. Or umayhal, or another kind of fluid that comes out of the body, shehertiach, which will bubble, which means that when it's heated up on fire, it will bubble. There are other fluids that come out of the body that will not bubble, but if it does, then that will cause tumah. So the Gemara asks, hey chidami, what is this talking about? Why are we saying that if it's karash, then I know that this will cause tumah, and if not, not. And the same thing with hertiach. If it will bubble, it will cause tumah, and if not, not. So right now the Gemara understands that basically it's not clear whether these fluids that we find near the body came from the body, maybe it did not come from the body, it's not clear. And we're sort of using this to indicate whether it congeals or not, or if it bubbles or not, to know whether this is fluids that came from the body. So the Gemara asks on this. So, hey chidami, what are we talking about? If it's a case where these fluids here, it's not clear that it came from the body, so kikarash mayave. Even if it is congealing, what does that prove? It doesn't prove necessarily that it came from the body. If it's a suffix, if you don't know if this fluids came from this body, the fact that it's congealed doesn't necessarily prove that it came from the body. So it shouldn't cause tumah. It shouldn't be enough of a reason that if the Nazir touches it, that he should have to cut his hair. So elamai, it must be that we know that this fluids here came from this dead body. So if you know that for a fact, so then even if it does not congeal, if the Nazir touches this, it should become tummy. So the Gemara answers the point that I already mentioned before, that it comes from the body, but not all fluids from the body cause tumah. So Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah explains, Bistam. Bistam means that, yeah, it is fluids that comes from the body, but it's not clear which fluids of the body it is. So now, ikarash, if this is fluids that comes from the body that congeals, so then mayolo. That means that it's a secretion of the flesh of the dead body, that what happens to it is, there's the fluid that comes out of the flesh itself, and that's kind of fluids that will cause tumah, and it congeals. But loy karash, if it does not congeal, so then it could be just saliva or other fluids like that come out of the body, which do not cause tumah. So therefore, the karash, if it congeals, that's a siman that it's coming from the flesh itself, which causes tumah. And the same thing also with hertiach. Hertiach bubbles is another sign to know if it's actually from the fluids of the body that cause tumah, and it's not stam, saliva, or other fluids that come out that do not cause tumah. So notzel is a specific kind of fluid of the body that causes tumah.
And a person who spits on something, doesn't it say somewhere?
It's a different story. That's when you get to Azav. This is by Azav. It says in the Torah clearly that the reik, that the spittle of Azav causes tumah, but not by a dead body. By a dead body, the saliva that comes out of his body does not cause tumah.
So Azav is more.
In that prat, there's a certain chumrah by the Zav. Abaye asked Rabbi the Shaila, Yesh notzel lebeheme. This halacha of the notzel, these fluids that come out of the body, do I say the same regarding a behema? So a behema we're speaking about over here is a nevela, a behema that's dead, a dead carcass that was not shechted. So there's a tumah of nevela. If you touch it or if you carry it, there's a tumah of nevela. So the question is whether this halacha of netzel, that the fluids cause tumah, which is a halacha l'moshe misinai. By a human dead body, the fact that nutzel, these fluids, causes tumah is all a halacha l'moshe misinai. Do I say that the same halacha l'moshe misinai applies to behemah, or ein nutzel behemah, or this halacha of the fluids causing tumah does not apply to a behemah? So the Gemara spells out the shaila miya mirinon. Do I say ki gemiri when I learn out nutzel the asime adam? The halacha l'moshe misinai teaches only these fluids that come from a human body. They cause tumah. But if it comes from an animal, loy, does not cause any tumah. or there's no difference. This halacha l'moshe Sinai about notzel was said both about a human body or even about the tumah of a nevela as well. So the Gemara says that this whole entire shaila will only be now according to one opinion. It's understood according to the mandama. Now again, this lashon of the Gemara here, haniche, does not mean what it usually means. Usually the word haniche in Gemara is brought when it's asking a question, and it's saying this is not going to be a question. This is not really a question. Over here we're asking a shaila. There's a suffix we have, right? If the halacha of notzel applies to behemoth. When the Gemara says haniche, what the Gemara is saying is, this is obvious that according to the following opinion, it's not a shaila. Why not? So here the Gemara will bring a machlokes from the Gemara in Bechayres regarding the tumah of nevela. Does tumah of nevela apply in a case where the nevela, the dead carcass, is not fit for human consumption? So that's the machlokes. This notzel we're talking about, these fluids that come out of this behemoth, this nevela, is not fit for human consumption. So if, according to the opinion that says that the nevela that's not fit for human consumption, the tumah of nevela does not apply, so obviously it doesn't apply to notzel either. That's the point the Gemara is going to say here. Let's see. So the one opinion says tumah chamura, the special unique tumah of a nevela. It's an ava tumah. It's a high level of tumah. Ad leger. This tumah only applies if it's still fit for a ger to eat. This is based on the pasuk. It's in the pasuk regarding a nevela. It says that leseichel kol nevela leger asher b'sharecha tetnena. Give it to a ger. Who's a ger? A ger toishav. A guy. Give the guy to eat the nevela. So the Isra of Nevela is not just that you're not allowed to eat Nevela. The Isra of Nevela is there's also a Tumah of Nevela. But the Torah says that the halacha of Nevela applies to what kind of Nevela? The Nevela that could be given to a guy to eat, meaning that it's fit for human consumption. Then the Tumah of Nevela applies. V'tumah kala ad lakelev. But he says, yeah, true, even if it's not fit for human consumption, there still will be a Tumah kala even if it's fit for a dog to eat. What's this tumah kala? Tumah kala means just like any other foods, even if it's not fit for human consumption, it could become tamei. A rishon l'tumah. If tumah touches it, it could become tamei. But not the original tumah of nevela. The tumah of nevela does not apply if it's not fit for human consumption. So shapir, according to this opinion, it's obvious that this notzel, these fluids that come out of the nevela, the tumah of nevela does not apply to them because again, these fluids are not fit for human consumption. So our shaila here is only according to the other opinion. But the other opinion that says there in the Gemara in Bechayres that tumah chamura ad lekelev, that the tumah, the stringent tumah of nevela, does apply to this nevela even if it's not fit for human consumption. It's only fit for a dog to eat. So here the question is, or the shaila rather is, do I say b'negei to the notzel that the halacha l'moshe Sinai was received to say that the notzel, which is not fit for human consumption, but it is fit for a dog to eat, should the tumah apply on this notzel as well? Tashma, so the Gemara brings a raya. It says in the Braise, himchuhu ba'oir. If a person took from the fats of the Rishonim here say, based on the Gemara in another place, that this is actually talking about fats that comes from a nevela, from a dead carcass, from a bird, which has a specific halacha. The nevela of a bird is not metam if you touch it or carry it. It's only metam if you eat it. So he took these fats from this bird that was not shechted, and he melted it in fire. Tameh. If a person eats this or basically drinks it, it'll cause him to become tameh. B'chama, but if it got dissolved from the heat of the sun, then tahir. Then it'll be tahir. And what's the reason? Because when it gets dissolved in the sun, so then it gets spoiled, it gets completely ruined, and it's not really fit for human consumption. Now, if you're going to say that even if it's not fit for human consumption, even if it's only fit to eat for a dog, right, and some add over here in the Gemara, or some change the lashon of the Gemara. If you're going to say that this halacha l'moshe misina, that the fluids cause tumah, applies even to an animal, that's really the main point the Gemara is trying to say there. According to that opinion that says that even if it's not fit for human consumption, only a dog could eat it, and the halacha of notzel, the halacha of fluids that cause tumah, applies even to a behemoth, or in this case, if it's from a bird. If that's the case, then afilu b'chama nami, even if it got dissolved from the heat of the sun, and so true, it's not fit for human consumption anymore in such a case, but nevertheless, it should cause tumah. because it's the nutzel. It's the nutzel that comes from a behemoth or from a oif, and it should cause tumah. So what's the difference if it's in a regular fire and it's still fit for human consumption, or it's in the sun and it's not? So the Gemara answers over here in this case, it's not even fit for a dog to eat either. When does this dissolve in the sun? It's over here in the sun. After the sun dissolved it, so it has a terrible smell. It's not fit at all to eat. Once it smells to that point, it got spoiled. To that point, it's like afar. It becomes completely like dust. Meaning, the point of the Gemara's answer is that it's not even fit to be eaten by a dog either. And therefore, this is not going to be, the tumah is not going to apply over here at all. Not even this tumah of netzel will also not apply to this. Okay, the Gemara brings up here another subject regarding tumah. It's sort of related somehow to what we said before. It's also talking about tumah, but it's not. It's really a different inyan. So Tanan, it says in the Mishnah as follows: Kol hanitzuk toher. Anytime you have something that was poured from one keli to another keli, it's still going to be toher. Okay, so what this means is if you have one keli and has fluids, and you're pouring the fluids from one keli to another, so even if the fluids goes into another keli where it becomes tamei, now you have the stream that connects the fluids that became tamei at the bottom to the fluids that's left in the keli, in the vessel that's still above. That stream does not connect it that what's left in the keli above should also become tamei. No, the nitzuk, even though there's a stream that's pouring, what's on the top still remains toher. Chutz midvash hazifim v'atzapiches. Besides, if it's honey, but specific type of honey, it has to be dvash hazifim, very thick honey, which comes from a certain place that's different than regular honey, and tzapiches, which some say is also a specific type of honey, or it's honey that's mixed with sort of a dough, flour, so it's a very, very thick honey. So this thick honey, so this stream that there is between one keli and another will connect what's below to what's above, that what's above remains in another keli above will become tamei. Shammai Yoimrim, Beis Shammai say there's a different stream also that the connection causes a tameh. Afa mikpah shel grisim v'shel pul. Also, if you have the mikpah, which is a porridge or some kind of a dish of food that's made from different kinds of beans, cut beans. So if you pour that, so that stream also will connect what's in the keli to become tamei. Why? Mipnei shehi seiledes lachreb. Because the nature of this thick stream is that when you stop pouring, it returns back. What was being poured, what's already out, it reverts back to where it came from. So therefore, it will cause tumah to the keli from where it's coming from. Oh, Rami Bachame. So Rami Bachame now asked on this the following shaila. Yesh nitzuk la'oichlin, or ein nitzuk la'oichlin. This idea of nitzuk, the stream, to connect what's in one keli to another to cause tumah. Does this stream connect when it's foods that are being poured? Let's say you have, like similar to what Beis Shammai really spoke about, thick the foods, or it's talking over here. We've seen the continuation of the Gemara. We're talking over here about let's say fats, which are foods really, and it was dissolved, and it's poured as a stream. So, but that's called foods. Do I say that there is a stream regarding foods that it's connected and it'll cause tumah? Or no, when it comes to foods, the halacha of nitzuk that it should be a connection does not apply. What's the basis of the question?
Other foods that he mentioned before? Or
again?
What's his question now? Before he says certain foods.
Correct. Beis Shammai mentioned certain foods. The Gemara is soon going to explain the connection to that. Yeah, it is l'chayr speaking about similar to what Beis Shammai spoke about, yes. Foods, or like I mentioned, fats that was dissolved. Mi amrinon, do I say, mishum de ispuhu riri, that the reason why I say that when there's a nitzuk, when there's a stream, that it's connected and it'll cause tumah to where it's coming from, the reason is because there's riri. Riri means that the stream returns back. When it stops pouring, the stream reverts back to where it came from, and therefore it's connected, it causes the tumah. V'hani les puhu riri. When you pour these foods, the stream does not revert back. Oidilme mishum the smichin. Or is the point that it's because there's a certain thickness to it. If you take fats and it dissolves, and you pour these fats that are dissolved and it's thick, it doesn't revert back. The stream doesn't go back when you stop pouring these dissolved fats, but it is thick enough that maybe that would be the reason. The thickness of it itself is the reason that it causes a connection in the stream that it should become tummy. It's thick enough. Amar Rave, so Rave says, Toshima, I'll bring you a raya from this following brayse. Chelev hameis. You have fats from a dead body. We're talking here about from a dead human body. Chelev hameis, shehu shalem, which is complete, it's whole, meaning it has the shear that it needs to cause tumah, which is a kazayas. And now it was congealed. It's chelev, it's fats. V'hitichai, and it was melted. In fire, it was melted. Tumah, it'll still cause tumah. Even though it had a kazayas, and now it melts, but it still will cause tumah. If there are different pieces of the chelev of a mace that are separated one from another, and so the different pieces together, it's a kazayas, but they're all separated into small pieces, and it's not a kazayas. V'hitichai, and it was melted, and now it all gets unified as one because it melted. Tahir, it's still going to be tahir. Now the question is, if you're going to say that when there's a nitzuk, when there's a stream, so by foods, it's not considered to be connected. The stream is not connected. So if so, shalem v'hitichai. The first case of this brayse, when you have the full kazayas of this chelev that was congealed, and then you start dissolving it in the fire, nami l'tar, it should also be tar, because the moment it dissolves, so there is the part of this chelev which is still congealed, and there's the part that already dissolved, and because there's a part that dissolved, the part that dissolved is sort of a stream that's flowing out of the part that's still congealed. And that stream is not considered to be connected anymore to the part that's not dissolved yet. So if it's not connected, so why is it saying that if it's being melted on fire, that it should still cause tumah? In other words, the point here is that when it melts, it doesn't all melt at 1 second. What happens is it melts gradually. So there's a part that still remains undissolved, and there's a part that starts dissolving. When it starts dissolving, so there's a part that flows out. But that part that flows out is already flowing. So if the nitzuk, if the flow is not considered to be a connection, so then it's not a kazayas anymore. As soon as it starts dissolving, if it's not a kazayas, it should be tahir. That's the simple pshat here in the Gemara. There are other Rishonim though that do explain that the pshat in the Gemara over here is when it's speaking about this chelev hameis shehu shalem v'hitichai, it's speaking exactly like we said before, that there was a chelev of the mace in one keli and it was dissolved, and then he poured it into another keli. So when it's being poured, so then the stream of that pouring should not be a connection, because there's no, the nitzuk, the pouring, the stream is not a connection. So why would it cause tumah? Amar Rab Zeire, so Rab Zeire said, Ano, myself, Umar Berei de Ravina, and the son of Ravina, Targimna, Hacha, we translated the meaning of this brayse, that again, Targimna, we explained, Hacha b'mayas kinon. What is it speaking about over here? Kagoin, the Bahadi, the Mirtachlei, that when this was heated up in the fire and it all dissolved, then what happened is, Salik Amuda, and the Rishonim here take out the word denuda, Salik Amuda, Lopume, the Mane, V'Kodash. What happened is that this part of this fat that got dissolved then went to the top of the pot, it flowed on the top of the pot, and over there it all got congealed again. The Isei Kula Gabe Hadadi. So you have it all together as one. So it is all one piece, kazayas as one, and that's why it causes tumah. But if part of it is dissolved and part of it is not dissolved, and there's a nitzuk that's coming out of it, or, and according to the other pshat, if it's being poured from one keli to another, so then there's not going to be, the nitzuk will not necessarily connect, the stream does not connect to that it should be the shear of a tumah. Now the Gemara comes back to the brayse that we quoted before about this. Ravina says to Ravashi, so again, the shaila over here is nitzuk by oichlan, a stream by melted foods. Do I say that stream causes a connection of tumah or not? So what did we have before? The brayse said, Beisham ayomrim af hamikpa shel grisim v'shel pol, that when you have this cooked food, porridge of grisin or shel pol, it's made from different beans. So what did Beishamai say? That over there is a nitzuk. That nitzuk is connected. Mipnei she'en selden lacharein, because the nature is when you pour it, it reverts back to where it came from when you stop pouring. So what do you see over there? That Beis Shammai is saying this reason, that the only reason why the tumah is because it reverts back. So what the Gemara really means to say is, this is really only Beis Shammai. We're not trying to answer this shaila based on Beis Shammai's opinion. We don't paskin like Beis Shammai. But the Gemara is trying to prove from Beis Shammai that Beis Hillel also really agrees to this concept. What did Beis Hillel say? Beis Hillel said that by honey, certain types of honeys, I say that the stream is a connection. So the way the Gemara understands now the machlokes of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree fundamentally that the reason why the stream causes a connection is because when you pour and you stop pouring, the stream reverts back to where it came from. The machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is when you apply that concept. Do you apply it by thick honey? Do you apply it by the mikvah, by this food that was cooked? But the point they both agree, in the words of the Gemara before, it's the riri. The riri means the fact that it reverts back. That's the reason why it causes tumah. But if there's no riri, which means in a case of oichlin, let's say the dissolved fats, when you pour it and you stop pouring, there is no stream that reverts back, then there should be no tumah. So therefore, this brayso proves this point. So the Gemara answers, no, that's not the way you understand Beis Hillel's opinion. Midi area, is this a raya? Hasam mishum the smichin. Over there, you know what the reason of Beis Hillel's opinion is? Not the reason that Beis Shammai gave, that it's soiledes lachireh, that it reverts back. Rather, Beis Hillel was speaking about thick honey. And the smichin, the thickness of the stream. That's the reason why there is a connection in the stream. But over here, what we're discussing is, our question is that the stream of this food that's being poured is not so thick. It's now dissolved, so it's not so thick anymore. But our question is whether we're discussing over here that it does not have this riri. Should I say that the riri or the thickness, again, Hassam, sorry, 1 second, let me just make sure I got this, the answer to the Gemara right over here. Hassam, no, let me go again over here. Hassam, when it is over there, when you get to the honey that Beis Hillel was talking about, what did Beis Hillel say? That the honey is very thick, right? That's the reason why, because it goes, not because the stream goes back, but because of the thickness. But hacha by Beis Shammai, that is, okay, not hacha over here, but I get to the foods. Hacha Beis Shammai, when Beis Shammai said that the thick porridge, that it goes back, Beis Shammai is the one that gave the reason, mishum riri, that it reverts back to where it came from. The point of the Gemara's answer is not like we understood before, that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel both agreed to the point that the only reason why a stream causes a connection, and therefore there'll be a tomeh, because the stream goes back, that reverts back. No, Beis Hillel disagrees with that. The machlokes of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is, Beis Hillel holds the reason is because it's a thick stream, and Beis Shammai holds that the reason is that the stream reverts back. So therefore, there's no raya to what we're speaking about. We wanted to prove that the reason Beis Shammai says Beis Hillel really agrees to that concept. But no, not necessarily. Could be Beis Hillel holds that it's the thickness of the stream that matters. And therefore, regarding the question we asked before, when the stream has the thickness, so then I would say that it is a connection, or maybe not. Maybe that's not the reason of Beis Hillel. So in other words, you can explain Beis Hillel's opinion in two ways, so you can't really bring a raya from here. Okay, so the Gemara doesn't answer this shaila. Okay, there's one more piece over here going on to another part that the Mishnah spoke about. Again, the Mishnah spoke about different parts of that come from a dead body that causes tumah. So the Mishnah says, if you have a spoonful of the dust that comes from the dead body, so if you touch that, you become tumah, and it holds, for the Nazir, will have to bring karbanis for this. But how much is the amount of this spoonful? The Mishnah didn't say. Chizkiya Amar Maloi Pisa Sayad. Chizkiya says it has to be the amount that could fill the palm of a hand. Rabbi Yechanan Amar Maloi Chafnov has to be the amount that fills the Chafnov, meaning Chafnov includes the handful, not only the palms of the hand, but as much that goes into the palm, including also the fingers. So it's more. It's not Tanan. In the Mishnah it says about this, Maloi Tarvid Rekev, or it's really a Braisa. What's the amount of Malay Tarvad Rekev Sha'amru that's said in many places? So Yeshnon Me'ikir Etzba'is Ulamayla. The shear is the amount that a person can hold in his fingers. So right now the Gemara understands what that means is from the beginning to the end of your fingers, not the palm of the hand, but what could be in the fingers of the person. Divrei Rab Meir. That's Rab Meir's opinion. The Chachamim say Malay Chafnov, the amount that a person can hold just in the palm of his hands. No, again, sorry. Malay chafnav means the palm, including the fingers. The whole entire, the handful, a whole handful, exactly. So now, Bishleim Rabbi Yechanan that said the whole handful, Hudama Rabbanan. He's following Rabbanan's opinion. El Chizkiah Kaman, with Chizkiah that said that it's the amount, that it's in the palm of the hands. He's not going according to either opinion. Like Rab Meir, not like Rab Meir, because we understood before Rab Meir says the amount that could be placed only in the fingers. That's not what Chizkiah said. And like Rabbanan, not like the Rabbanan that say that it's the whole handful. So the Gemara gives two answers. Amri, one answer that was said was Maloi Pisa Sayad, the amount that a person could hold in his palm, or Maloi Kishri Etzba'isov, Lamaila, and the amount that a person could hold just in his fingers, Chachi Yuruhu. It's the same shear. That's one shot. Amalei Rav Shimi Barada, Rav Papa, Rav Shimi Barada, he says to Rav Papa, different answer. Mimai, how do you know the high Mikishre Etzba'isov, Lamaila, L'Roish? How do you know that the Lashon that it says in that Braisa, that Rab Meir says, that the amount that you can hold in your fingers, so he uses this term of Maloi Kisher Etzba'isov Lamaila, how do you know that that means from the beginning of your fingers to the end of the fingers, or really from the end of the fingers to the top of your fingers? Maybe what it means is Dilma Lamata Mididei, maybe it means from the end of the fingers into the palm of your hands, which means the Havalei Maloi Pisa Sayad. So really what Rab Meir is saying is, the Lashon of Me'ikir Etzba'isov Lamaila, what he meant to say is, from the beginning of your fingers into your palm, meaning only what you can hold in your palm, which is exactly Maloi Pisa Sayad. That's exactly what Chizkiah said, only what a person could hold in his palm. That's the shear. Okay, the word take over here really doesn't belong in here. So that's the machlokes over here between Chizkiah and Rab Yechanan. Is the same machlokes between the Chachamim and Rab Meir.
And then that goes to the palm of the hand.
Right.